welcome back, guys. That was stressful. Doing the new logo and everything. Yeah, I felt I had quite a big responsibility on that one. But it's great to see all the new logo and everything else. So welcome back. Welcome if you're watching. We're back at it. So I've got some great hosts again. The usual faces on my show. I've got Ben, Stu, and Mr. Ton. Ben, how are you doing tonight? Can you hear me, Ben? I might have just I've just entered everybody back into the chat. I'm not sure if Ben can hear me. Stu, welcome to you. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, all good. Looking forward to the show, pal, as always.
Brilliant. Mr. Ton, how are you doing, mate? Good?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm actually looking forward to pre-season in a couple of weeks when the lads go on tour, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it'd be nice. We'll talk a bit about that at the end of the show, actually, just about the pre-season tour. Because there's obviously quite a bit to talk about now. We're obviously going to be talking about about training and Ten Hag's first session this week. So obviously quite a bit to talk about. So we'll get straight into that. I'll just add Ben back into the chat. Ben, how you doing? You all right? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear anything. My phone just went silent. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. That's fine. We can hear you now. Right, okay, let's get going then. So, this week, Ten Hag's first session. Obviously, a lot of positivity around the fact that, there's a new regime, some new faces, new coaching staff. And generally, I think just excited about the fact that it looked positive in terms of what, as United fans, we were hoping to see. And how we exchanged and how we got involved in the training session, and I think that was quite exciting for most of the fans to see. Mr. Ton, are you reading much into that? What were your general feelings on his first day in the job?
For the brief stuff I saw, because I remember having this conversation on Spaces with people, and I said in previous years, pre-season, because is this the first year they've shown, or is it the second year? Because I know it's not like it's a usual thing they show the snippets on social media. Because before, what used to happen, they will show it on MUTV. So if you got MUTV, you can see all of that. And I remember when LVG was there, and I'm comparing it to when the other managers there. I've mentioned that when LVG was there was a lot of ball work. It was a lot of ball work, and it's reminding me of that, if that makes sense. It's when LVG was there, a lot of ball work, which. To be fair, a lot of the teams that want to dominate the football, that's what they do. It doesn't surprise me. It's not, the training drills are nothing new, or they're not invented by Ten Hag. It's nothing new or special. Anyone that's played football would know that they would have done these training drills. The only difference that I would say is the intensity, if that makes sense. I can tell already they're not used to doing these on a regular basis because they're not doing it at a very high intense level. And if you compare it, and if anyone has access to any other team that does similar training drills, and you see the intensity they do it at, you can tell where some of these players are not used to doing these sort of drills yet.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Well, we'll go into a little bit in depth in terms of the personnel that were in training as well, because still quite a number of people missing. Stu, what were kind of your general thoughts, mate, on it? Obviously it's first week. Let's not get carried away. But I mean, what were your initial thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, it's the same as Mr. Tom, really. I mean, you've got to look at it. There's only a finite amount of drills you can do within football. There's only a finite amount of training you can do and that type of thing. And it's all about interpretation. It's all about how each manager interprets similar, ways of playing, whether it's ball work, whether it's just purely fitness. It's things of that nature. So I was quite pleased to see Ten Hag pretty much go with the ball pretty much straight away. And most, Mr. Tom's right, most possession style managers will work with the ball straight away. A lot of managers, and when you consider where we were 10, 15 years ago in pre-season to where we are today, the guys are regularly fit. Most of them have only, have been away with their international teams, and you're not going to lose that yard of pace over your 2 or 3 weeks away on holiday. They take coaches away with them. They're doing a fitness work. So I'm not going to get hugely excited by pre-season training because it's a chore. It really is. The whole concept of coaching, though, comes down to application. You can work on absolutely as much as you like on the training pitch. If you don't apply it on the match day, then it's kind of an irrelevance. So the key will be what Ten Hag can do and how he can bring that from the training pitch onto an actual match day. And that the guys, I mean, I was listening to somebody saying, "Oh, the guys are really bought into Ten Hag." Oh, do me a favour. Come on, I can't deal with stuff like that. I really can't deal with stuff like that. You're a professional footballer, for Christ's sake. That's what you're paid to do. So you've just got to really take it onto the pitch. The key element, the proof of whatever we're seeing right now, will be how we set up on July 12th against the Scousers and how we play. Now, we all know that it's just going to be a friendly. For Ten Hag, it's going to be his first real opportunity to see the lads in action, what they do off the ball, what they do when they've got the ball, what space creation they're making. Are they understanding what he would like, in certain aspects of the match? So that will be the real key element to it. So yeah, nice to see a bit of enthusiasm. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Andrew's put here that obviously, we'll come to the signings as well, but he's still got a lot to do in terms of making his team and putting his mark on the team as well. But he did seem quite energetic, didn't he? He's coming in. Obviously, it's his first week of the job. Of course, he's going to be excited about doing that. But he's engaging and meeting all the players and giving them all a bit of a chance.
He's extremely meticulous. There's no two ways about that. His attention for detail is very, very good. But so Steve McClaren.
I was quite impressed with Steve McClaren, actually. I saw some clips on how much he got involved.
Steve McClaren is a revered coach, but the key word there is coach. Forget management experience, it's coach. We had something similar in the late 70s, Dave Sexton, a revered coach, but couldn't turn it into management. So there is a huge difference between your coaching ability and your managerial ability. So for Ten Hag to have his trusted Van der Gaag alongside him, and then somebody who knows the club and who's extremely meticulous about how he goes about his role, having McClaren back is a big thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, just before we move on to Ben, Hammer's asked you a question there, Stu, in terms of do you think the older players, is that right? Do you think that in terms of physical and athletic ability that the older players could handle playing now? I'm not sure if he means which ones he means, to be honest there. I might have to clarify that one, Hammer. Unless, Stu, do you understand that question?
Well, look, I've always said with physicality, and I generally stand by. So I've got no idea what Hammer's talking about.
Sorry, yeah, the older generation. So yeah, okay, right.
It's really up to you as the individual to make it work. It's up to you as the individual to go ahead and not buy into it, but really do your work. When you're away on holiday before you get to pre-season. If you're if you're a player at Manchester United, you knew Ten Hag was coming in April/May. They probably knew in April he was coming in way before us. The first thing you're doing as a season pro is you're looking at everything he's done for the past 5 years in his managerial style, his training style, the way that his team's playing, the way they're set up. And then you'll look at yourself as an individual. Can I adapt to that? Where am I falling short within the way that Ten Hag wants to do it? And if you can adopt that attitude, Ronaldo is the best example. We all know this, of constant bang, 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 bang. I've got to be at the very top of my game. I've got to be the fittest I've ever been. Then you'll survive. If you don't and you go with a half-hearted approach, you'll fall by the wayside.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's got to come in and try to impress him as well. I mean, just we'll come to Ben on the training sessions. Ben, what are your general thoughts? I mean, got a comment here from young John posting videos on social media, on United social media. Do you think that shows a weakness, or do you think it's a positive for the fans, or how do you view that, mate?
Well, that's a nothing question for me, because anyone could go and watch someone's training session with the amount of social media around nowadays. Players doing it themselves when they're at the ground, for instance. Yeah. So they're not gonna. And all they have to do is go on YouTube to look back at what Erik ten Hag does as a coach. So it's relevant. In terms of the actual training sessions, what I think's the most pertinent thing, which Stu mentioned, is we've been crying out for coaches, and the one person who's always been renowned for being a very good coach, we've now brought along in Steve McClaren to actually coach the players in a way where they're actually going to get something out of it structurally. In terms of all the glitzy videos, that's just the PR machine working with Erik ten Hag being in and trying to jump on board the feel-good factor. But I've said it from day one, even when I played at the level I did, which wasn't at their level they are, if you do the simple things exceptionally well all the time, the difficult aspects of the game aren't as difficult as they need to be, because you're doing all the simplistic things exceptionally well. We haven't done that, which is why we've had all these major chasms of performances muddled with a little bit of genius by like Ronaldo or something, or someone doing something out of the bag like Bruno or whatever. We've never done just a constant baseline. So for me, yes, seeing on the training pitch is great. The pictures, obviously, it was nice to see some of the youngsters involved, but that's what they get paid to do.
Yeah, because I mean that was a big sort of thing really this week, wasn't it? There was a lot of young players in that squad this week, and that's a good thing to see some of the young players get a chance to work with someone like Ten Hag and the rest of the coaching staff, and even play with some of the first team players. Obviously, some of the first team players were still there: Lindelof, Rashford, Wan-Bissaka, but there was a hell of a lot of young players in that squad this week, and it's not really told Ten Hag much about his team, so I suppose he doesn't take much from that. Do you guys agree with that, Mr. Tom? Do you agree with that?
Do you know what? One thing I did forget to mention, there was only one thing from those montage training videos that I did like, and it's something that Ten Hag even spoke about in one of his Ajax videos, about creating overloads and the third man run. So in one of those training montage, you hear it, third man support, like creating overloads. So repetition, and once they get used to that, hopefully, because that's something that as United fans we cry that we haven't seen and stuff like that. So he's gonna bring that. That's probably the only bit that I remember from taking away from any of those videos. That was probably, that's something to listen out for when I heard third man support or third man run, I think it was. So, and that's basically saying creating that extra man when there's like 2 versus 2 to create the overloads. That's the interesting thing for me to be that. Apart from that, I forgot to mention that, but yeah, sorry, Reece, about that.
No. Please, go on, Stu. Sorry, mate.
I was going to say the other thing is, as Ben quite rightly pointed out, that these little training snippets that you're seeing just the basic football training that you do on a Sunday afternoon in a park somewhere with your mates. You're just seeing the basics of that. What you're not seeing is the intricacies, which is probably, him and McClaren are talking about. The interesting thing that we did pick up was that both goalkeepers were involved in the one-on-one quick pass.
That one, yeah.
So I'd not seen that before. So that is something that, De Gea is going to have to look at. He's going to have to, really step up his game on, which we all know. So
I think I was going to say the other thing as well for me, Stu, is, and Reece and everyone else, is the simple things is where you show whether you've got true professionalism or not. Because doing all the fancy stuff's brilliant, but if you don't have the appetite and the desire and the application to do the simple things right, not just to the basic level, but to the level that he's demanding, you'll sink or swim. Because he doesn't strike me as someone who's just going to let that slide.
No, I think you're right. I pre-season training, all teams I've been involved with, new players have come along, older players have moved, new players have come along, and they try and do all these fancy step overs, do all the keepy ups and all that kind of stuff. I used to look at them and say to them, what are you trying to prove? Can you give me a 2-yard pass and walk 10 yards into space, mate, so that I can find you again? You can do as many keepy ups and as tricks as you like, but if you can't do the basics, it's an irrelevant. You're a waste of time to our team, and that gets forgotten about all the time in football. Ben, me and Mr. Tom spoken about this a lot, really, at the basics of football. And I said, and I've spoken about it a million times, a lot of our players, if they're having a bad game, can't play themselves back into form during the game. They stay static. McTominay is a brilliant example of giving away 1 or 2 bad passes. He can't do the simple thing thereafter to play himself back into a match. That is just basic football, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
We all do. Even on a Monday night with your mates on a 5-a-side, if it comes off your shin, it comes off your knee, they're taking the piss and you're thinking, oh, fuck, it's going to be one of those games today. So what do you do next? You get it and you drop it off 2 yards. You get it again, you drop it off another 2 yards. You calm yourself down and you play yourself slowly back into the game until you got your confidence back, and then you start taking chances. We must do that. We must do that.
I remember watching an interview that Keno gave, and he said if he was having a horrendous game, he was always thankful that he was playing with Scholes, because Scholes would always keep giving him the ball. Even if it was just a simple 2-yard pass, he was constantly giving it. He could then give it back to Scholesy, and then you sort of like get that flow going then, and then you then build into it. Our guys who just want to hide or go in the rabbit hole.
Terrible. They do. All the time.
Andrew's backed you up on that comment as well. I mean, I think we've all agreed, aren't we, for such a long time, that's exactly what we need, and we're hoping that we can find that player in this transfer window. But yeah, totally. I mean, just from my point of view on the training session, it was encouraging to see that, you know, he was doing the simple things, and yeah, okay, he was pointing and saying pass and move, which was a little bit of a meme, I suppose, another little joke that we can all laugh about, because obviously, why can't, you know, as our players, Wan-Bissaka, just pass and move when he's on that right hand side, and we've been tearing his hair out, you know, wanting us to play pretty simple football. But you know, he's getting involved in the sessions. It's his first week on the job. A lot of them were young players, and I think, you know, we can't take much from that other than the fact that he's getting involved. He's getting us playing simple football, and I think it generally was quite an encouraging thing to see that we've got a manager who seems to want to sort of grab the bull by the horns and grab us by the scruff of the neck and get us playing in a certain type of football. So yeah,
sometimes as well, Reece, the simple things, if you can make the player understand what that simple thing means, sometimes it just clicks. That's all it needs, is just how you deliver the message. Because I think a lot of the times with our players, you say to them, make that 5-yard pass, but then if you were to ask them, okay, why have you made that pass? What's the next process after that? Probably a lot of them won't have a clue, because I don't think we've gone past that phase. Whereas, as much as that might seem trivial or laughable to some other fans, it's actually getting the understanding into them. Look, it doesn't just end with you giving the person me giving Mr. T the ball, and then I just go, right, that's my job done. It's what you then do next for him.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing, guys, is that we've got to consider, come Friday, we're getting on the plane to Bangkok. Come Friday, I don't know whether it's Friday evening or Friday lunchtime, but we board the plane to Bangkok. So your training is going to be limited from when we land in Bangkok to the very first game that we play. So it was critical that he got as much of the groundwork done as he possibly could. And we're still missing Ronaldo, Maguire, and a couple of other players, aren't we, from what I could tell? Plus, the new signings are likely to come in. I think he's got a real tough job moving forward with integration of new players, getting his message across still. And as Reece mentioned earlier, what he does with certain players that are going to be surplus to requirements. Does he have to keep hold of those that little bit longer to keep his squad depth at a decent level? Or does he bite the bullet, remove some of them, send some of them back out on loan, whoever those may be, or wait and see who performs out in Bangkok in Australia before we come back to the UK at the end of July and make a decision then? I think he's got a really, really difficult balancing act to make it work, if I'm being honest, without putting a downer on it. But knowing football the way that I do, and you guys know football the way that you do, it's not an easy path for him. But the World Cup's isn't it?
Well, let's merge into the pre-season talk. We're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end, but I think it has a relevance to training and in terms of his current squad as well. Obviously, like I said, this week he's not been blessed with having a lot of his first team players in training. There's a lot of young players and a lot of young players that have done that, you know, brilliantly over these last 12 months, winning, you know, the FA Youth Cup and everything else. So he's been, I suppose, on one hand, he's getting to see some of these players who could perform for him next season. I mean, I saw Alvaro do absolutely brilliantly in the training session as well. I thought he looked really, really switched on. the left back, really looks quite well. And he's at a position he could where he could sort of bring him in, and he have a really good pre-season. He might, sway Ten Hag and turn his head a little bit. But with this pre-season tour, is Ten Hag going to take much from this? Really, is this going to be a bit more of a pain in the ass and a bit of a hindrance for Ten Hag rather than a positive? Because he's going to be taking quite let's be honest, a team that's probably not going to be his first team come, the first game of the season. So, Mr. Tom, you mentioned you were excited before. Obviously, I suppose it's just getting United back on the the pitch and seeing them play again is the exciting part. But are you taking much from it really?
Yeah, I'm excited because for me, everything's been based on a lot of logic and a lot of research, right? So that's how I base on my sort of my reason and thinking of. So it's just I want to see if my logic and what I've my reasoning and everything and things that I've put out on the table, see if it comes out now and see what happens, because I've sort of, in terms of how he's going to play and the playing style with this team. So obviously the first couple of games, as usual, which every manager sort of does, you sort of let everyone get their fitness, and then towards the back end of it, you start seeing their starting 11 for the season. That's what I'm interested in for. But I'm also interested in a few surprises, because I'll be honest with you, and it's my personal preference, and Ben's been on Spaces with me a lot. I try to get everyone to leave their personal preference at the door, if that makes sense, and try and think about the manager and his tactics and his preferences. But my personal preference wasn't to buy a left back. I wanted to see Fernandes prove himself in this preseason. That's just my personal preference. I really think there's something in that boy, and that's another person, a prospect I'm looking for when it comes to preseason now. I want to see how he performs. There's quite a few of them I like, but he's one of them I'll say at the top of my list that I'm excited to see what he does and see if, he might take the manager's eye to the point where, I've got two youthful, energetic left backs here. Do I really need two? Do you get what I'm trying to say? That's where, when you've got two youthful players fighting for that one spot, that's real competition now. That's not someone that's been at the club for how many years, or another player that didn't play for 2 years and came in only because of Ralph. You've got two players Ralph sort of alluded to it. It's better to get them players when they're more hungry. So you've got two players that are going to be fighting for a position who are hungry. That's probably the good thing we're bringing in the new left back. But I personally would have, my own preference, I wanted Fernandes to get a look, and I'm not going to lie, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on pre-season. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I quite like Fernandes as well, actually. I've seen him a few times. I did quite like him. But he's young, as you quite rightly say. So he's got positional issues at the back. Be very, very good going forward. But he can sort that out. You can teach a younger kid how to position yourself better. This Malacia, however you pronounce it, I don't know. He's a real strong.
I probably pronounced it wrong. Terrible.
Yeah, live wire.
Malacia.
Yeah, he's a live wire as a player, and he'll give us energy galore going forward. But again, if you watched him for final, he had his issues positionally at left back. Now, look, I'm old school, so let me be clear about this, guys. I'm old school.
You said it a lot of times, though.
Yeah. He's a fullback. He's a fullback. That's his primary role. But then the Ten Hag side, it isn't. He's got to do a dual role. And we've spoken about the wider players being able to cover, etc., which I'm sure we'll get in later into pre-season. So it'll be interesting to see whether Malacia can come in. If he comes in, or does he start Shaw? That's my only thought pattern. He may well go safe and start Shaw, give Malacia a few weeks to get used to the club, used to the team, etc. But the bits I've seen about Malacia, I like him because he's powerful. He's not particularly big, is he? But he's powerful. He's a very, very good athletic fullback. Can he defend? Time will tell. But that's the same with Fernandes, by the way. That was my point with Fernandes. Anyway, once you can get him positionally right at the back, okay, I think he'll be a top player, top fullback. I really do. A top modern day fullback is what I'm talking about. And that's what we need on the right hand side. So interesting will be, does he keep Brandon Williams and utilise him as a versatile left and right back, because we know he can play right back? Or does he remove Telles? Because you're right, somebody's got to go. Does he remove Telles and Williams out of the equation? I think he keeps Williams for versatility. That's where I'm down on that one. So I'll be interested what you guys think.
Ben, do you want to add to that? What do you think?
Wait, before Ben goes, because I forgot something, Ben, if you don't mind. I don't know how concrete it is, but Ben knows devils in the details. He mentioned something today, and I was quite shocked. I need to check it myself because I like to check this myself. But apparently, Malacia has the most shots attempted in that league. That was actually, so it comes back to what Stu said about attacking wise. You know, that's very. Do you know what I mean? And his nickname in that in Holland is the Pitbull. By the way, that's two things that I brought to the table.
Stu, cheers, Mr. Sorry, not Stu. Ben, do you want to add to what Stu said? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm quite brutal, to be honest. Telles isn't good enough, and Shaw's had his opportunities. Just, I mean, there's only so many times I'm prepared to give somebody the benefit of the doubt before I just go, look, mate, at the end of the day, you've had enough lives. It's now time for somebody else to have a sustained go. I've seen Fernandez play for the youth team last season, and he was brilliant. Like Stu said, he's got. And the one thing I like about, if you had, say, I'm not saying he would do, but if you had those two as your two choices for left back, you've instantly got competition because they're of a similar age. You've instantly got that where they'll want to get one over each other, but in a good way, which means they'll then want to learn as quickly as they can to outdo one another to make sure they're the one who's starting all the time. So you're not going to see any lag in their progression because they're going to want to constantly absorb everything that they're getting given, work on everything that they're getting given, so that they know that they're going to be the one on the team sheet. If you just go with Luke Shaw, it's just a safe bet, and it's then, well, what's changed? He's had all these chances. I know he obviously had the horrendous leg break, but that aside, he's had all these opportunities, and then you just go back to him. Well, what does that tell Fernandez and Malacia? That even though it's basically, regardless of what you can do, mate, he's the safe bet because he knows the club and he knows the position. Well, I'm sorry, that was the old Dawn for me. The new Dawn is he's not good enough. He's had too many chances.
Do you think Sean's been the product of not the product necessarily? Sorry, that's probably the wrong term. But do you think the results of his poor form have been of the fact that the midfield's been so poor, though, Ben? Do you think so? Like the reason I say that is obviously we're fearful that a Fernandez comes in and suffers the same fate that maybe a Telles has suffered over the last 12 months, or even. I mean,
for me with Luke Shaw, I've got no issues, and I'll be the first to defend him. If there has been times in games and over a period of games where he's never been helped. So that's been a fact. However, that aside, everything else that he can control, he has constantly let slip.
See, I agree with that, Ben.
Because of what I do for a living, and just because of how long I've been doing it for a living, I would never, ever let my standards drop. One, because it's just not me. But two, I would instantly be called on it. And if I don't rectify it, I'm in a world of pain.
It's common sense, isn't it?
I've got two fears for me then. I've got one, I'm going to get bollocked. And two, it's my own personal pride. So everything externally, yes, I completely agree. He has been led up the garden path a lot of the times in games by just the system we've played, players not bothering to look out, players just too busy looking out for themselves and not looking out for each other and then trying to help each other with that. So, yes, I agree that that has happened to him. But a lot of the stuff that's his own doing, he's been called upon time and time and time again, and it's still the same things. How many times have I gone onto spaces with Mr. Ton and the first word out of people's mouths is, Mr. Chunk's back in training?
Yeah.
If that's your reference for who you are as a player, there's something drastically wrong. I'd be mortified if I was getting known as that.
I noticed he had a knee bandage on again. I'm sure it was just like doing a little, maybe the superstitious thing, but a knee bandage on again at pre-season. You just think it's just another season of poor,
It's fashion, it's fashion, Reece. It's fashion.
It didn't look really good.
The thing for me though, Reece, is I would rather spend next season with Ten Hag going with those two players and having next season as that progression season where everything in structurally and then Ten Hag as a system we build into, because that 12 months, if you went with those two, the amount that they would learn and be educated on meant that come next summer, they'd have had 12 months of a proper grounding under Ten Hag, not flirting in and out because we've got to constantly go with Luke Shaw because he's been there for so long and he's England's left back or potential left back. Sorry, name only gets you so far. You've got to back that up.
I've got to slightly agree with you there, Ben. I mean, look, I talk about common sense and football sense all the time. And if you're a left back, if you're Luke Shaw and you've got roasted by your wide player, whoever it may be, he roasts you. He should only roast you once, and that's it. You should have the common sense and the football knowledge to sort that out. Luke Shaw hasn't shown that enough for me, so I do agree with you. One worry for me, and it's only a worry about going with Malacia and going with Fernandez, is where are the big characters in our team? We haven't got the big characters. You know, so when the class of '92 come through, and I don't want to drag all this up again, it was some massive characters in the dressing room. Bruce was there, Pallister, Keane, Ince, Kanchelskis, Schmeichel. Some massive, massive egos. So they could look, when these kids are being mixed in with, players of that nature, you walk on that pitch, your chest is so far pumped out because you got Roy Keane alongside you. You got Peter Schmeichel behind you, guiding you through matches. And if you remember, Ben, I speak occasionally about the ability to coach a younger player during a match. You've probably done it yourself when you've been playing a game and you've had a young player alongside you. You've had to coach him and coax him through the game. My worry is we don't have that in our squad. And the types of players we're being linked with, are they big enough characters to enable us to carry them for 12 months? So I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just offering another opinion.
It's a fair point, isn't it? I mean, I think I think a lot of these young players coming through have potentially got that ego to have enough confidence in themselves to, potentially put themselves on the map. But you're right. Again, it was a free set of circumstances, really, where you had so many good players coming through, young players, in the early 90s, and plus you had these big egos and personalities as well to help them through that. But you can't always be blessed with that. I suppose there is still some senior players in the team. I suppose people like, unfortunately, as much as it's gonna divide opinion. You've got Maguire's there. You've got Lindelof there, who's been there for a few seasons now. If Shaw sticks around in the team, he's been there for 8 years now. This year,
I think the only thing with the youngsters for me, though, Reece, I think is because of how I look at Ten Hag as a person and his personality and how meticulous he is and how he goes about what he wants to do on a football pitch in terms of with his players and teams. I think he's the type of manager who I look at and think if I was a youngster, he's going to be the person who I believe would say to a youngster, if you see one of your teammates out of position, I don't give a rat's arse who they are, you give him a rocket up the backside. And I've watched Fernandez play, and he strikes me as that character. I mean, I know it's only his counterparts that he's doing it to, who are of a similar age group, but you've still got to have that about you to call someone out, even at a younger age.
I think confidence is a massive
exactly.
thing,
and if you're breeding that as a manager into him, then the more they do it, the more it will get. It will then become part of their game naturally. Yeah, you have to give them that opportunity to show it, though.
So we've talked about captains and how important captains are in the team, and I don't really sort of buy much into it, really. I think if you get to a point where your team are all confident, everybody should have the ability to speak up and say something. So I don't really believe too much into one individual, calling the shots for the team, really, to be fair. And as much as they've got to be that kind of driving force and that kind of person who's setting the standard, you should have a full team of people who are doing the same thing. But we'll just move on really, really quickly. I've got a question on this, Mr. Todd. I don't know if you want to pick this one up, mate. Just in terms of Erik ten Hag, he's known for playing players in new positions. Do you feel like he'll do that in the current team with the current players that we've got? Not necessarily any new players coming in.
I think there may be one or two. I feel like Rashford might get played as a striker, especially be backup striker or backup option if Ronaldo does stay if he does stay. And then if he doesn't stay, that's hypothetical speaking, definitely I see Rashford playing as a striker, Bruno possibly false nine, because similar to how Ten Hag done it in the 18-19 season with Sean, Donny, and De Jong, and then Tadic was the false nine. So I can see that. I don't really see Bruno, because some people have suggested about playing that way. I don't see him doing that, only because certain attributes I don't see him doing that. But definitely, because Bruno has a strike on him. Let's not lie about it. If you pass that ball to him in the box, he knows where to put that ball into the net. So I definitely see that scenario. Who else is there in the team? I could possibly see nice, but he's done that before. I was going to say the lower, like further forward sometimes, but he's done that. Who else on the team? You got Matomali. Matomali maybe might be used a bit different. Maybe one of them. Fred could be used a bit different. There are definitely two that I can see being used different because how Ten Hag likes. I don't know if anyone remembers how Sean used to play, but if they don't, I suggest some people go look. Sean was like an Ericsson type player, if that makes sense. He wasn't the DM, and people seem to not remember this because they probably didn't watch Antics, but De Jong was always the one further back. So I definitely see them, Fred, McTominay, because I don't know if people remember, McTominay has in the reserves, he's played that sort of game further forward and getting into the box. I feel like he definitely his game could change a lot in this season anyway. Who else is there? Sancho, don't really see him changing much. Langa. Oh, I could see Alanga being tried at right back. I could see him being tried because he works.
Right.
So I could see him filling that. Just, like sometimes if we don't have an option, I could see him being an alternative because he did work under Ralph, and that's why Ralph used him. Who else is there?
As like a three at the back, would you think? So more like a right wing back, sort of a.
No, like a right back. I can see him like a right back. I generally because of his youthfulness and he's got, even though some people credit and discredit him about certain other attributes like technique, but he's got really good discipline. That's what he does have. So I could see that somehow. I think
my fear. We're talking about quite a lot about the fullbacks at this moment in time. Obviously, we just talked about like Tellers and Malacia and Shaw. Is that the one thing you do get from like a Shaw, and the worry I've got with maybe playing someone like an Alanga at right back is that delivery. We lacked that delivery, didn't we, last season? That delivery was poor. The amount of times where it was showing where we could have crossed the ball into a box early deep cross or get to the byline and whip a nice ball in. The times where it didn't come or the delivery was just so poor. I kind of move on and I'll add this into another question, and if you want to pick this up, one of you pick it up as well. But will Ten Hag kind of improve some like the set pieces? Do you think the set pieces will be something he'll work on early part of this season? Because that was something for United where we were so poor last season with set pieces and with corners in particular. Or do you think it'll just naturally be something that just comes with just getting confidence and playing games, and he just won't work on it at all?
So it's a bit of a set piece is a tricky one because ultimately all you're doing is delivering a ball. That's what you're doing. And then you've got
It's funny though, Stu, isn't it? How we do say that, and I do agree with you slightly, but then the stats don't lie, do they? In terms of like when you're on the poor season,
they don't. But the thing about it is, if you're a defender, for example, and we're no good at defending set pieces. The way that United lined up last season was a bit of a mix of zonal marking and man to man. But the problem is when you're zonal marking, you're always 2 yards off, so you always give the opposition player at least a 2 yard run on you. And if you've got somebody like, I don't know, Harry Kane, who's reasonably good in the air, a 2 yard advantage to him is pretty damning. We're no good at, for whatever reason, we're no good at looking over the shoulder and saying, oh, by the way, I've got him. Can you just do me a favour, pick him up? What you're standing there for? We're so guilty of ball watching all the time. And I'm going to say it again, common sense football rings. I'm sorry, mate. I know I keep repeating myself, but it just is common sense. Now, sometimes you can't legislate for somebody who puts a worldie of a header in, or it's a worldie of a strike from 20 yards because we've headed it. we've headed it out. I mean, I remember a game, I can't remember exactly who put the ball away, but Maguire put a decent header out 20 yards and it came instantly back, and they scored against us. But that happens in football. What we're no good at is delivering. And this is again down to the individual. If you can't, Ben will remember this from when he was at Leeds. And he
Be
would
the
have
first man.
Yeah, exactly. You knew what I was going to say straight away. If you can't do that, let somebody else do it. You've got to be really meticulous about where you place the ball and the type of strike you want to put in. And sometimes we don't think, we just whip it in and see what happens. Our accuracy of our crossing is abysmal. It really is. But then the lack of movement, bar Ronaldo, in and around the 6 yard or the penalty spot when we're attacking, is equally woeful. And there's one of the reasons why, if you all remember, and I know you will do, we were getting brilliantly excited about the movement of Cavani. When Cavani could be bothered, there's nobody better in the box than Cavani at speed of movement. And I'm talking lightning speed. A couple of goals he scored away against Southampton, he was the only one moving by the time the cross comes in. Bruno's shot come cross that Cavani puts in to get us back to 2 apiece. He's the only one moving. So we've got to work on that. Now, we don't know what's happening with Ronaldo yet. There seems to be a bit of backwards and forwards whether or not he's going to stay, whether or not he's going to go back to Sporting Lisbon, as the latest I've heard. So you've got to find a modern day striker who's good in the air, who can give us that, manoeuvrability within the 6 yard, plays on that 6 yard. So Mr. Ton's right. I think if you're going to change anyone in our forward line, it's going to be Rashford through the middle, but he hasn't got the instincts. He's not as quick or as sharp in the box that we're going to need. So it'll be interesting to see what he does and how he works that. Sancho's got to work on his crossing. And if Martial stays, and he plays him out on the left, he's equally got to work on his crossing. But so interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think it's one of them where I think the season before, someone like Maguire was quite a threat in the air in corners, and it just seemed to the season, obviously last season, seemed to just elude us completely. And is it confidence? Is it structure? Is it, like you say, is it tactically in terms of are you defending? If you're defending pretty well and you've got that confidence, and you generally go up the other end and you're potent as well, aren't you? You're winning headers in the opponent's box as well.
There is one more issue, Reece, and I'm not David De Gea bashing, but he doesn't come out. He doesn't claim at the 6 yard line anymore. He used to. He stopped. You do need help from your goalkeeper as a centre half when you're defending a corner.
Yeah. Well, just on the kind of pre-season tour, I suppose we've kind of touched on that a little bit as well already. But Ben, I want to get your views on it as well, mate. Are you kind of looking forward to the pre-season tour? And obviously, is it written in the stars that Ten Hag's kind of first non-competitive game, but first game, he's going to beat Liverpool, and we're all going to get massively excited and start expecting to win things?
To be honest, for me, Reece, results don't bother me, and obviously you don't want to get tonked, but results are secondary to me. When I watch the games on the telly, I want to see that every game there's progression, and every game there's players taking on board whatever he's asking them to do before, during, and after the games, moving into the next one. So by the time we come back from where we started before the Liverpool game to where we ended pre-season or the tour, you've seen growth across the team and individually. That's all I'm after. So that there's a system, people start buying into the system, they start understanding it, learning it, collectively moving forward with it. Players getting good minutes under the feet. I mean, I know the only good thing about being where they're going to be playing is the climate. So their fitness will come on a lot quicker than it would do back home because of the conditions they're going to be playing in. So you're going to be working twice as hard for the same amount of effort almost, which means your fitness levels will come up quicker than they would have done. I mean, I know they're obviously going to be fit anyway, naturally, but your progression on that front will go further forward. And then with that, the fitter you are, it's easier to then carry out the task that you're being asked to do because you're naturally getting fitter as well as doing it. So for me, I'm more interested in everything else bar the result. Yes, it'd be great to win every game, but ultimately it's pre-season. I want to see a methodical process across the board, and I can actually see players buying into what the manager's asking them to do. Engagement, positive, showing that attitude that they're actually, yep, we're in for this, and we want to help each other and help themselves.
Yeah, brilliant.
But I obviously want us to smash. I want us to smash Liverpool, though, of course, obviously.
Yeah, we all want that. Whether we actually believe it or not is another story, isn't it? Mr. Tom, is there any players in this sort of in this pre-season? You kind of mentioned it a little earlier on, but is there any players that you're really excited about? Obviously, is Martial coming back? Is that maybe something that can get your juices flowing? Are you kind of looking forward to seeing Martial back in a Ten Hag system, or is there any other players that you're looking forward to in this pre-season?
Not really. I'll be honest with you, not really. If, and this is a big if we get the signings we're linked to or over the line, it'd be very telling how they mesh with the squad. That's what I want to see, just where certain players are going to play. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What happens? Like I don't want to go over these players. Everyone's heard their names 1,000 times, but that's what I'm probably looking for. I'm probably the Martials. The people like the Martials at Rashford, I feel like they're going to be utilized a lot. But if Martial stays, because we didn't sign a striker, we're now lacking in that department big time, right? So whether people like it or not, Ronaldo is of the end of the spectrum now, so he can't play every game. So he might, if Martial stays, that one, I just feel like that ship has sailed for me personally. But I wouldn't mind if then someone could then surprise me. And there was that report this week, apparently, the players that might stay or whatever, pre-season or just anyone in general, any player, pre-season is your time to show me something different. Because you have to remember, Ten Hag would have walked through that door with his own assessments already made about a lot of these players. So the fact that he's going after his lieutenants, players that know his system, tells me that those players are going to be his lieutenants first, foremost, and then anyone else in pre-season that actually catches his eye or changes his mind can find their way into that squad. Because, like I said, he's already. It's like all four of us here. I'm pretty sure we've already made assessments on certain players here. We already know certain players, but they even might shock us in pre-season or in the season. And that's exactly what it's going to be with Ten Hag in pre-season and training with them every day. He's going to get to see firsthand how they operate, and then be like, "Oh, he surprises me. I can squeeze some more out of him, or he's got a bit more than what I thought about him." Do you know what I mean? Or his character is a bit more than what I saw last year. So that is what probably I'm looking for most in the pre-season. Like I said, I'm more excited about. Fernandes is the only one top of my list that excites me the most. I'll be honest here.
Andrew said there, I'll let the guys jump in a second, but he's just put there, I don't even know if I get him more than 10 minutes. I think that's the one that we're all really excited about, isn't it? So, but that shows you to illustrate your point, Mr. Tom. That's exactly what you're talking about there. A kid who's struggled to get into a team over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, and he's going to potentially be Ten Hag's one of his biggest players, isn't he? So it shows you can fit to a system, and hopefully can play well with it. So sorry guys, was it Ben or Stu? Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I in pre-season I kind of agree with both the lads really, but I was very selfish as a player during pre-season. I was out for myself. I was making sure I would do whatever it took to make the starting 11 for the first game. So I was a very selfish at pre-season. So I've been working hard on the off-season, and I'd do everything. I'm not talking about sucking up or anything, but I'd be listening and watching and making sure I could interact as early as possible, so that I would be, prepared and ready, and then that starting 11 for the first match against Brighton. So that's how I used to operate. But the guys are right. Scores are an irrelevance at pre-season. You could lose all 5 games, but if you've progressed as a unit and you've understood each other match by match by match by match, so that when you are walking out against Brighton for the first match, you've got an idea of exactly how you're going to be playing in your setup, you'll find the game will become a lot easier. It'll come much easier to you as an individual. So I'd like to see a bit of selfishness from the bulk of the squad, because we didn't really see that last year. There was no selfishness apart from Ronaldo and Bruno. But I'd like to see a bit of selfishness, and the lads doing everything that they can to say to Ten Hag, look, pal, you can't leave me out, mate. I'm ready. I've done everything you've asked. I'm ready. So going back to a point that I did make, and a point that Mr. Tons made, actually, it will be the integration of the new players when they finally arrive, how that's going to work. And that's going to be the difficult part for it.
Yeah, I suppose it's wondering. Well, obviously, pre-season is kind of out of the question now, isn't it? With us, like as you say, flying away next week. It's going to be, they're going to miss pre-season now, aren't they? So, yeah, Ben, what's are you kind of excited about any certain players, or you just kind of take pre-season as it is?
I know I'd like to see Garner get some chance to showcase what he can do and what he's obviously done at Forest to Ten Hag before they decide either way what they're going to do with him, whether they loan him out or keep him. Because I also think he's got good IQ about it. I'm not saying he's top tier, but he's got something up top where he can understand what Eric Ten Hag's going to ask of him and position he's going to want to play him in. But the kid who I really do like, and people have slagged him off, which is beyond me, is I like Palestri. I've read a lot about what Diego Forlan said about him, how he's been rapidly progressed through the Uruguayan system, and they are very strict and anal about how they progress their kids until they get to the first team. And I've watched him in the 20s, in the 23s for Uruguay. And you watch him, and the problem is he was kind of sold down the river with Alaves because they didn't have the budget. They don't play attacking football. They're rigid on their formation because they don't have the budget to bring in players that are flair players, and they're constantly fighting relegation. So as a manager, you're not going to really side with a youngster very much unless he's bloody Messi at that age where he can afford to. So he was never really going to get the opportunity to really showcase what he could do, which for me is why it's important for these loan moves to be right for the player. So I think I'd like to see him get some minutes because I think he's actually a seriously talented boy. And you have to allow him to have the platform to showcase either way, good or bad, whether he is in the manager's eyes moving forward. Because if you don't ever give him that opportunity, you can't give a fair assessment of him for me. So I'd like to see him get some minutes because I think he's got a lot to offer. And then obviously, like Mr. T and Stu said, just players just showing a bit of oomph. When I look at them, I actually think, you know what, he seems on it today, not they're on it for 10 minutes and then it's back to normal again. They're actually on it from minute 1 to minute end.
Do you agree what Apex has said there? Do you think there could be any players that could have a bit of a shock under Ten Hag and realise they probably can't play at this level plays after?
Probably all the first team bar the youngsters.
Yeah, there's probably quite a few of them, isn't it?
Be a few.
Yeah. Just to touch on the guys that listen. Sorry, Ben. We've had 60 odd people watching tonight, which is an unbelievable turnout for the show. So thank you very much for everybody that's watching. We'll be rounding off the hour in about 5 minutes, so we'll do about an hour tonight. So I appreciate everybody that's watching. Please get your questions in before we finish out the hour, and the guys will try and answer them. So if you've got any questions about training, about the transfers, about pre-season, get them in the chat, and then I'll show them up on the screen, and we'll get some of the guys to answer them for you. But no, don't forget to subscribe and like and share as well. So, but yeah, thank you for everybody that's watching and has been watching. If you've been jumping in earlier on, so yeah, sorry Ben, did you have something to say there, mate?
Yeah, so what I was going to say now.
I was distracted, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do then. We'll move on. We'll move on to.
Oh no, that was it. Sorry, I think Eric Ten Hag is a sink or swim manager. I don't think he will suffer fools. So I think that for the first time ever, I think we're gonna have a manager where there is that fear, but not Jose went about it the wrong way. Whereas I think with Eric Ten Hag, the fear factor that he will have will be the right way of going about putting that fear in the players. And with the way he plays football, it's going to be sink or swim because there's no hiding place. You've either got the ability to do what he wants or you haven't.
Yeah, he calls it, well, some people call it high risk, high reward football. That's what it is. It's get everyone in the opposition's half 50 yards away from the goal. If you get counted, you get counted. That's how
If you can't technically do what he's asking of you, yes, you can coach to a degree, but there has to be that natural level of you to be able to understand what he's asking of you. And if you can't do that, then I think he'll be ruthless.
Yeah, well, which is interesting. We'll move on to keep on that point, but on the transfers in particular. Do you feel like then he's putting his eggs in one basket? Then, in terms of like De Jong, for example, obviously he's got a certain image of how he wants to play and how he wants to be structured. Do you think he's a little bit? I suppose the word is stubborn. Do you think he's a bit stubborn with his philosophy then? That there's no flexibility with it. There's no plan B.
No,
Mr. Tom, what do you reckon? Oh, sorry, go on, Stu. I'll let you.
All I was going to say is that there are times where you should be stubborn as a manager anyway, because if you've got belief, then you should be stubborn and stick to that. You'd have probably recognised that at Leeds, Ben, when you were going through. They wanted you to play a particular way, and then that's it. That's how you're going to play, sink or swim, adapt or die. It's entirely up to you. So I do think that to an extent, you do need that mentality. Guardiola's and Klopp are very, very similar in terms of that. Louis van Gaal used to be years ago, and then he completely changed his style. But anyway, strange. So I do think an element of stubbornness and selfishness is needed at the very, very highest level from a player as well as a manager. With regards to De Jong, and I don't really want to dwell on this at all. I just worry. And look, there's no doubting Ten Hag wants him. There's absolutely no doubting about that. But I just worry he's not invested in joining Manchester United. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a good player for us. I think he would be. But you need a player that's 100% invested into you. And the issue for me is, if you believe the press, and I work in the press, I work in the sports media, so I know exactly how it works. You get a little tidbit, and then you write around the tidbit. So there's a tiny element of truth, and the rest is expanded. That's just how you do it. But this tidbit keeps coming up that we've agreed a structure of a deal. And once you agree a structure of a deal, and deals can be complicated, there's absolutely no two ways about it, image rights, etc., etc., etc. But once you agree a structure of a deal, it's not necessarily plain sailing after that, but it's relatively more easier after that to close the deal. And somebody like Frankie De Jong, image rights outside of Holland won't be a huge concern to Manchester United. Inside of Holland, it will be, but not outside of Holland, because he's not a Messi, he's not a Ronaldo, etc., etc. So my worry about it, and it's just my own personal opinion, is that I don't think he's 100% invested. I think he wants to stay at Barcelona. Barcelona want to move him either from a financial reason or they want to move him. But because he's got 2 or 3 years left on his contract, it's really going to be down to him to decide what he wants to do. Now, if he does come to United, you'll get the rhetoric, oh, yeah, I've always wanted to be here, etc., etc. He stays at Barcelona. I was never going to United. I was always staying at Barcelona. But I think if he stays at Barcelona, he's going to have to take a wage cut, quite a big wage cut. Because didn't you say he was on something like 370 grand a week, Mr. Tom?
No, he's just over 300 euros. So that would be around about 250. It's going to be about 240, 250.
So it's a nice salary. So it's a nice salary. So I think he'll have to take a pay cut if he stays. But my worry is, and you guys have probably got a different viewpoint, I don't think he's 100% invested. And I don't know if we need a player, as much as Eric Ten Hag wants, that's not 100% invested.
But Stu, wouldn't you say that, in my opinion, with every player that Ten Hag wants, to be fair, they will be coming just for him, really. Anthony,
I don't disagree.
Coming for us in a normal circumstances, especially how we performed in the last couple of years. Anthony, if we do hypothetically get him, he'll be coming because of the manager. D'Alessandro, if we do get him, be coming because of the manager. Even Malacia was rumored to. It was speculated about how he wants to come to Man United because of Ten Hag. Once again, the manager. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So
I don't disagree with it. I don't.
It's with all of them, to be honest. I'll be honest with you.
Do you guys think that this pre-season has a little bit to play in some of these signings, and as well? Do you think if we do well at the pre-season, it's favourable that Martinez signs or De Jong comes if we do well?
I don't think you could do that anymore, Reece. This year, I don't think you can.
I feel like the young deal. I don't. I'll be honest with you. It's already done. I'll be honest with you. He's coming through that door. The fact that Barcelona did only received, I think it was just over 200 mil. They wrote that deal in their books for last year. Trust me, they wrote the De Jong deal in their books for last year because they didn't get the money that they needed. They needed 500 mil. They didn't even get nowhere near that. They got, like I said, just over 200 euros. So they had to be getting ready now to bid for players. As you've seen what they've done, they've had to have done something, written something in their books, and I'm assuming it's the 200, the 10% of the TV rights, and then probably the young deal in that as well. They wrote off last year in their books, and when they write off in their books, even though we're going to be paying an initial fee, they're writing off. You have to remember this is how football works. They're writing off the full payment, if that makes sense. So if it's rumored at 85 million euros, that's what they're writing in their books. If that's what tells me the fact that they're able to sign the 3 players that they had that was waiting for some approval because of the finance situation, and now they're directing at 1 or 2 players, and it's been speculated over the weekend possibly De Jong could be announced. It tells me that everything's already done. I'll be honest with
you. Yeah, no, totally. It's up in the air. It's untrue. And obviously, I don't know what to believe. I think I saw it. I don't know if it was a tweet or it might have just been a news report. I know that article had said that I think it was like the 50th day of the saga, and that was, I think, about a week ago. So
nothing close beside us, not saga, is it? Let's be honest.
No, it's up there breaking records, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ain't that still going on? Wesley Sneijder?
Yeah, probably. Probably still wants to come.
Ben, do you want to have a final say on that one, mate? We're gonna wrap up the show in a second. So, do you have a final say on the De Jong one?
For me, I think the deal's done because I don't think we'd have gone for Malacia how we have done, unless there was concrete that's been done. That's the payment they're going to get over that structured manner for us to then go and do what we've done. The thing with Jon as well, I think I get where Stu's coming from, but I think where I would say I don't see it in him is purely because of the manager he's coming for, and because whenever I've watched Frankie De Jong, I mean, people analyse him to the nth degree when he's doing interviews anyway about the words he uses. He's never going to come out and do one way or the other. He's always going to be diplomatic because A, he's not in his nature, but also he hasn't got an axe to grind with the club. But I think he will be fully vested in the club when he arrives. I don't see him being someone like the Di Maria issue, for argument's sake. I think Frankie De Jong will come and it will then be heart and soul in what he's doing for Erik ten Hag. If we'd have had any other manager and we went for Frankie De Jong for some unknown reason, I think, what Stu said is completely and utterly accurate for me in terms of how he would probably come with the attitude. But I don't think I'll see it in Frankie De Jong. And then I think with the Malacia thing, that to me just confirms that the deal's done. I think as well, he's away, isn't he? He's still on holiday. Obviously, the thing about with his wife or his future wife, yeah.
Do you know what, Ben? Do you know what? I forgot to add this. I'll let you finish it off, Ben. But I remember last week when we was on the channel, we was talking about, the Malacia thing deal done. On the weekend, it was reported by 2 journalists specifically that once the De Jong deal is done, they're going to go to Malacia. They did report that.
I did say that.
They said once the De Jong's deal is done, they're going to Malacia. And that's why apparently, even though the 2 clubs agreed, him, Leon and the club, that he was waiting for Man United to finish that deal. That's what he was. It was rumored that. So he held it out for that. So that's why for me that deal is actually done because
I did say that.
I'm still holding out, guys. I tweeted this a month ago. I'm still holding out the fact that as soon as Man United announce their home kit for next season, we'll start seeing all these signs coming through.
Yeah. So they delayed it 1 week. Well,
it's delayed until the 8th. The 8th of July is when they're now doing it.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's the day they fly out as well. That's the day they fly out.
It is the day they fly out. So we're going to get a plane, and then we're going to get all 4 players up on the plane.
We'll only actually have one strip between all of
them. The thing for me though, Reece, which I think, yeah, say for argument's sake that did happen, and those 4 players were on the plane. So Eriksen, De Jong, Malacia, and Martinez. For all the noise and negativity that's been thrown at John Murtagh, look at how he's kept to task. He's let everyone else blink. He's let everyone else do the legwork for him. You think the 2 deals that we're going to do outside of De Jong, 2 clubs have done the deals, have done the legwork for him. They've set a precedence of what the fee is. We've then come in, done the exact same fee, and structured it on the terms that we want. 12 million over 3 years. Malacia, Arsenal have set the precedence by going in at the level they have done, knowing full well that we can offer the same because Ajax were prepared to accept Arsenal's offer. We can then structure it over the terms that we want. So that's 2 deals that we've done that we had not to do any legwork for. And then we've done the same with the Barca deal because of the position they're in. So I think if that happens, I think you have to. I mean, I know there's still a long way to go with all other aspects of the club, etc. But from a footballing standpoint, in the short space of time that I've seen John Murtagh get his feet under the table from, say, March, April-ish to now, you can't help but just, for me, that if he does that, that's 10 out of 10 for me. On that basis, I mean, that alone for me is a success. Whatever we do after that, you can't better it because we set a precedence now in world football that when it comes to transfers, this is how we're going to operate. This isn't a one-off. This is how we're going to be.
I think there's a Ranić influence there, by the way. I think you're right. Everything you said is absolutely correct. I think there might be a slight Ranić influence. I'm not saying it, it's true, but I think there might be. I think Ranić did a lot more. I mean, Reece, we've locked horns about this, me and Reece have, but I think he's done a lot more behind the scenes than anyone realised. I really do. And I think this has got a little bit of Ranić to it. But you're absolutely right, Ben. It would be superb by Murtagh to adopt that strategy and we come off winning. Yeah, I totally agree.
I think the thing that he's probably not celebrated enough, and I think as fans, it's probably the boring side of the club, isn't it, in the football? But it's getting that credibility back, isn't it, as a club? We've reduced the wage budget. We're trying to build an ethic and a style again where we're taken seriously in the transfer window, where we're doing the right sort of deals for the right sort of money for the right sort of players, and it's getting that credibility back, isn't it, as well? So. Whether you like that or not, or whether it's not the kind of the flashy signings that we all want to see, and we do want to see De Jong come in. We like Ben said there, rightly so. John Murtagh's got some level of credibility back in these last 2 or 3 weeks.
I made the point. I made the point, Reece, that if you analyse how Ed Woodward operated and the type of player that he looked at, Ed Woodward would have instantly shot down Ten Hag over Malacia. Because it wouldn't be looked at as a glamorous signing because of the fee, the type of player, and the razzmatazz around it. Even if the manager said, well, I need him because I need him a left-back. Yeah, but he's not the glamour left-back. Let's focus on Neymar and try and fit him in because look at everything that comes with that signing. The social media, the interactions, the arguments on social media, good or bad, the shirt sales, everything else is in the here and now, not looking outside the window. So those signings that we've actually gone after, one, like everyone said, who he wants, but also there's been no fanfare around it. We've been completely closed shop, like we've been under COVID restrictions, and then it's just bang. United have signed Malacia, agreed a deal. Bang, we've done this. Bang, we've done that. That's how it should be at a top level club.
Yeah.
None of this. Oh, let's make a soap opera out of it. Episode 12 of looking out for Frankie De Jong. I mean, yes, all the noise of Frankie De Jong is going to come anyway because the media needs something to drive home with to keep themselves relevant. So, oh yeah, it's like day 49, like Big Brother in the house. What's happening with Frankie De Jong?
What we do. It's what we do.
They don't know what's going behind closed doors. That's what interests me, behind closed doors. And this proves that actually what's going on behind closed doors is right for once.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, guys, just before we go, see United forever. Could Ten Hag be what Fergie was when after Sir Matt Busby? I like it. Great quote.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. We really hope so. I think we all really hope so. And I think he's given us all feelings that could be possibly true. And he's got a great youth foundation to build from as well, which them two did. So hopefully he can use that wisely. Guys, it's been brilliant. We've had an unbelievable amount of viewers on our show tonight, which has been a huge first for me. I'm sure the new branding has gone in some way to help with that. So hopefully everybody likes that and has seen all the work that Ben and Simon and the rest of the team and James have done on that one. So thanks to those guys for doing that. Thanks
That's all right,
everybody. the other Ben. Yeah, so thank you to everybody in the chat, by the way, and really thank you for everybody that's been asking the questions. It's been massively appreciated. Please share, subscribe, and like if you haven't already done that. Follow us on Twitter. There's loads of you that follow us on Twitter. It's our biggest platform. Mr. Tom, Ben, and Stu all getting on Spaces during the week as well, and doing the bit on that, which is fantastic. So catch us on one of them as well. We've got Callum, I think, on Sunday doing a show.
Yeah, we're back Sunday.
Yeah, so catch Callum on that. He's had some really good shows lately as well. He's had some big guests. So do catch Callum on that.
Can I just say one thing, Reece?
Go on, Ben.
I just wanted to say, if anyone gets the chance to, I think they really should do is listen back to the space Mr. T did with the guy from, what was his name? Steve.
Steve.
In relation to the whole Richard Arnold interview. I think it's definitely worth a listen.
Brilliant.
Oh, I listened to that. Actually, I was listening to that. I was in that space listening.
Brilliant. Yeah, some good stuff, guys. So catch us on there. We're all over the place. We'll somewhere hopefully be on your TV screens at one point in the future. So, appreciate it, guys. Take it easy. Have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers,
guys.